So let's start with the basics. How did you end up in this field? Was automation, engineering, or technology something that you gravitated toward as a child? Was there a teacher or mentor that sparked your interest, maybe a class during your education that grabbed your attention, or was this something completely different that occurred later in life?
That's a good question. I think what started it for me, my cousin had a pager shop back in the 90s, right? And he
Wow.
hired me to recrystallize pagers for him. And so I learned how to solder when I was 15, and
Awesome.
that kind of had me gravitate toward electronics as a interesting career. And so
Sure.
I went to school, and I was trying to decide, okay, do I want to do computer science or do I want to do electronics? And I couldn't choose between the two. So I took a electronics path that had PCs as like a specialty. So I had, even from a young time, I had my foot in both sides of technology in a sense. So,
Great.
and I do remember because I actually did not get my engineering degree. I got an associate's degree in industrial electronics, and one of my teachers there really pushed me to do engineering. She said, "You have kind of like the engineering mind. I would suggest you do that." So I do have a teacher that kind of pushed me in that direction. So
Great. Yeah, I'm sure not many people, especially today, have a background that started in the pager industry.
I know exactly. It makes me feel a little old. I'm not gonna lie. When the younger people like, "What's a pager?" It's like,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, great background though. Great backstory. So why system integration? I mean, there are thousands of other engineering and technology jobs that are available, and obviously you've had a few. Why this one? Why system integration?
So when I was at CMC still, I was there as an electronics technician, and the things I gravitated toward were the PLCs and the HMIs and the VFDs, because alphabet soup, right? We got all the acronyms, second only to IT, right?
Right.
And so I gravitated toward those, and I understood those better than a lot of my peers at the time, and I was the one that they would send the new guys to train. If there was a small change they wanted us to do, they would come to me and say, "Hey, look, we want you to do this," because I was comfortable enough to go inside the PLC and make any kind of modifications that were necessary. So I think that's what gravitated me toward that. And then when I transitioned to Revere, which is a systems integrator for those who may not know, that transition to go from a maintenance technician to a systems integrator, that's a huge step. And I know a lot of people try to make that step, and it's a very difficult step. I was at
Sure.
CMC for 9 years,
Wow.
and I thought I was the bee's knees when it came to
Sure.
VFDs and
Wow. Now you're making
HMIs and
yourself
PLC.
sound really old.
Exactly. And then I'm like, I get to Revere, and my first year at Revere, I learned more than the 9 years at
Really?
CMC. And
Wow.
that's nothing against CMC.
Sure.
It's your role is different, right? It's one thing to know it well enough to use it to troubleshoot and to make minor modifications. It's another thing to start completely from scratch, where you're responsible for making the design, the control panel. You're specking out which particular parts you need. You're taking an IO list and making that make sense to real world stuff. You're making sure you have all the voltages and currents is right, all that stuff, which you don't think about as a technician necessarily. All that's done for you. You're just given drawings and, hey, wire this up or whatever, or use it to troubleshoot. And I found a lot of people may not be able to make that transition as well. I'm fortunate that I was able to, and
Mhm.
I don't necessarily think I'm smarter than anybody else. It's definitely not my disposition at all. But I gravitated towards it because it makes sense in my head. I could usually figure out things pretty easily. Troubleshooting is a strong suit of mine,
Mhm.
and I like explaining things to other people to the point where I could help them um, get there too. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so even though your career has started with other companies, CMC, uh, Revere, ECNS, Hargrove, uh, why did you decide to go ahead and put your own name on the shingle and hang it out there? What really motivated you to start your own company?
That's a very interesting question, especially since I've talked with other people who are doing the same thing or have done the same thing. And the motivation is a little bit different between me and a lot of people. And I'm not casting stones at anybody else, but for me, I never had the ambition of, hey, I want to be my own boss. I don't like having a boss. All those people, they're dumb. They don't know what they're doing. I could do it my own way better. That wasn't my
Mhm.
motivation. I've never said, hey, I want to build my own empire. That's never been it. Um, Again, I'm not casting stones. It's just to me that's a little bit vain, and I don't really think I'm vain. My wife might disagree, but to me, my motivation was this: when I would go from company to company, and I'd have clients that would want to follow me or whatever, I want to bring them because I'm a good steward, right? I want to be a
Mhm.
good steward of my clients, and if I go from one company to another and they're willing to come with me, not that I'm trying to steal clients, that's never my
Right.
objective. But I'm like, hey, I want to bring them over here. Look at where I'm at now. I'm sure we could take you on. And it's always been a situation where my new employer doesn't want to deal with this company, for whatever reason. Maybe they're too small. Maybe the projects are not worth their time. Whatever the reason is. Or they're like, that's not your role. You're not BD. You're not sales. Like, stay in your lane. Know your role.
Right. Right.
But I'm very much of the opinion that your client is what's important, not necessarily your structure, or your rules, or your roles. Like one positive thing that I believe that I bring to the table is that a lot of engineers may not be the best with clients from a
Sure.
social aspect. And I feel like that's something I can bring to the table that maybe a lot of engineers might struggle with or might not be that comfortable with. I want to talk to the client and see what their actual needs are and try to meet those needs. So I started my company because I wanted to be able to help those who may not want to go to a big company or it may not be cost effective to go to a big company, right? If you can go directly to me and I can support you, I think it's a win-win, right?